Welcome to AI for Everyone, Season 2. In this podcast, we will still attempt to demystify artificial intelligence with information about how to apply it, but now we're going to move into the actual application of everyday AI use. First, I will share with you my client workflow solutions. Second, my students' AI readiness and advanced projects. Third, my AI-powered writing projects, and finally, my own professional workflow as well as some creative AI endeavors. If you're just getting started or need some more instruction on the fundamentals of everyday AI use, please return to Season 1 and look at the titles for episodes 1 through 20. If you're an educator, a student, or a small business owner who is ready to stop just talking about AI and start putting it to work, you're in the right place. Hey everyone, welcome back to the AI for Everyone podcast. This episode is going to be a little different in that I've realized that I'm too busy with my career as a teacher to maintain the plan that I had developed in the summer. This has happened to me before with other podcasts and other projects. I'm all excited and I dive in, and then when school starts, and there's so much work to be done. It's overwhelming and it decreases the quality of my life. But I'm really enjoying working on this podcast, getting better at AI. So I'm going to keep going, but with a little different focus. Starting now, I am going to simply share with you the everyday AI uses that I practice, the things I work on. So they're going to be basically about 4 or 5 different priorities that I'm going to come back to. Some days I might talk about a couple of them. Some days I might focus on just one, but it's going to be a lot looser, and you'll see a lot more of what I'm doing. So right now, my main AI projects are focused on more efficiency and being a better teacher, and then also working on my creative things. I am 57 and getting closer to possible retirement from teaching. It'll probably be a few years yet, but I like to write, I like to create videos, I like to do other things. And so I use AI in those as well. So the first priority that I will talk about is how I use AI in my profession as a teacher. So I'll talk about what I do with my students, trying to teach them everyday AI applications to help prepare them for the future within the confines of a public school. There's a lot more going on than people who aren't in public schools might think. I'll also expand into my advanced class. This year, I really only have one advanced class, and these wonderful students are creating custom GPTs to create characters from the novel, The Death of the Author. There's a story within the bigger story, or there's a story within the story that focuses on robots in a futuristic scenario, and my students have created and are continuing to work on their own AI robots, basically. And so we're going to use a variety of AI tools to flesh those out. So I'll be sharing that with you. The second big project is my clients. I will be highlighting a couple of my clients. One is a professional still working in her field. I won't share any details about either of my clients, but she is using custom GPTs. She's using custom gems with her Google workspace to become a better coach. She's a certified coach and just becoming more efficient, managing clients, keeping track of information, billing, things like that. The other client that I'll focus on is a retired medical professional with a more creative direction now, writing, creating movies, submitting them to contests, and that client is using OpenAI's custom GPTs and ChatGPT features because it's a little bit stronger for creatives. So I'll be sharing information about that, showing you what I've shown them without any of their personal information. The third thing I will focus on is the work that I do with my own writing. I have self-published different books. I self-published books about the SEAL teams, one nonfiction that's dedicated mainly to trying to help young people grow up, and then a couple of fiction books set in Central and South America. They're mysteries, and they include a lot of history. And I'm going to show you how I use AI to improve the writing, to edit and revise these novels that I've already completed. In addition to that, I am starting a new project where I am going to use AI to create a new reality for the main character of those stories as an older person. I was in the SEAL teams when I was young, so the characters are based loosely on my life, and so now in the new story set in the Midwest in the 2026 time period will be different, but I'm going to start with AI as an organizing tool and to help me keep track of things. The last priority will be me sharing how I use AI to be organized, to stay on top of things. As I'm getting older, my memory is not as sharp as it used to be. I also don't have as much energy. I need help being organized, and AI helps me with these things dramatically. That's not the last one. The fifth priority is creations other than writing. So I like using AI to make videos and other things, usually in support of something else. For example, I'm going to make the videos to support my students' custom GPT robots and figure out how to use handheld projectors so they can actually walk around with their creations at the conference we're going to in Madison, Wisconsin in April. So this is the new direction of my podcast. I don't know whether people will like the looseness. I'll probably stumble around a little bit more. There'll be more screen recordings. For a while, I won't have any more guests. I have one more guest scheduled, and I'm going to fulfill that commitment in the beginning of November. And then for a while, I will be just sharing with you what I'm doing so that I can enjoy the podcast and move forward. I guess I'll find out whether or not this is a good idea by the number of people who download and watch the episodes or listen to the episodes. And if it doesn't go well, then that's a sign that the information I'm sharing isn't as important or helpful as I thought. Please still feel free to send me an email, hansoneducationservices@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions or any questions. But we're going to move forward with this new direction. This week, I'm going to just start by showing you a little bit about my writing process with the revision, and I'll introduce the next step that I'm very excited about. So I like to write stories, novels. I have self-published about 5 or 6 books, and then I've also self-published maybe 10 for my students, 8 to 10 for my students with their writing and stories. These can all be seen at Brett Hanson Books, which is on hansoneducationservices.com. But what I'm doing now is I'm using AI to help me revise, improve, and streamline. It is extremely helpful to pay a professional editor, but I just don't have that kind of money as a rural public school teacher. So I have created a series of custom gems to help me with this. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I create a custom gem for something like my writing projects. The first thing you have to have is a paid Google Gemini account, and then you go to Explore Gems on the left and click New Gem. So here you can see my gems. I have the SEAL gem, which is the one that is my assistant for my SEAL stories. And so I'll quickly show you this so you can see the end result, what it looks like. So in the instructions, I have a long set of instructions with a variety of categories. The information, persona, the SEAL Stories universe, things like that. And it explains what the purpose of the gem is and the parameters. So in the edit and revise mode, it has a task, it has an output, there are certain things that I want it to do, and I tweak and adjust it as I go. So this set of instructions basically guides what the gem will and won't do. My strong recommendation is that you start with something functionable and then you practice and you adjust. And then down below are the knowledge files. These are the fixed bits of information that are used to fulfill these instructions. So in the instructions, I can tell it to only use information from the knowledge files, or I could tell it to use information from the knowledge files first and then search for things on the internet, or I could tell it to simply search the internet only when I give it explicit instructions to do so. But as you can see, I have the documents. I have the actual Seal Stories Universe primary source, which is a document that I made where I put all the information that I wanted to use. I have the actual novels, First Fall and Just Cause, at their completed stage. I have the notes for Just Cause. I have the notes for the First Fall. And then I also have my nonfiction Seal Stories book, A Boy's Journey, so that it can refer back to the basic principles of honesty, confidence, work, service, and vision. So it draws from all this information when I ask it questions. So then I will test it. In this case, what we want to do is we want to start a new one so you can see how to do it. We will come back to this throughout the process. So I'm going to click New Gem on the right, and then I'm going to give it a name. So this is going to be called for now, I'm going to call it my Door County Mystery Series Assistant. Now, generally, I will start typing in the instructions. Like I will start typing in persona, and then I'll tell it what I want it to do and what I want it to not do, how I want it to behave. I'll put in asterisks under the numbers. So in addition to persona, I'll have a purpose, and then underneath that, I might have a few purpose statements. But when I first started making these gems, I realized pretty early on that it was actually easier if I go to another Gemini window, I start a new chat, and I ask it to create excellent instructions for my custom gem, and then I tell it what I want it to do. That will be my assistant for my Door County Mystery Series, and I can start to tell it different bits of information. So I might put a period there, and then I'll tell it the main character will be, accidentally hit enter. If I do, I can just stop it. The main character will be Steph Austin from my Seal Stories series. I will include this in the knowledge files. I need the gem to be my editor. Actually, I want to put even before that, I need the gem to be my brainstorming assistant, research assistant, and proofreader and editor. So generally I would take a little bit more time with this, but I don't want to hold you up for too long listening to me and watching me type in the instructions. But basically I tell it exactly what I want. In all honesty, when I use this now, I use the voice mode, which makes it a lot faster and a lot easier. I can talk and think faster than I can type. So if you're comfortable with the voice mode, I would recommend that. But what's happened now is that it has generated the core instructions, and it's giving me these suggested areas based on what I've asked, considering that it has a lot of experience with custom gems, because this is Google Gemini and it creates gems. And then what I do is I always review it. I read the role and goal, and I might tell it that I wanted to split up the mentor and goals of the podcast. I might like it to be into 2 different parts. I might tell it to be more succinct and bullet it. I prefer bullets and as few extra words as possible in my instructions. It has created the core modes and functionality. Mode 1 is the brainstormer. Mode 2 is the research specialist. Mode 3 is the eagle-eyed editor. I like all this. I'm going to add all kinds of things. For example, right now, I am going to put in add a requirement that the editor and revision or reviser always uses the Brett Hanson voice file in the knowledge files when offering suggestions or revisions. So I'm telling it that I always wanted to use my voice, and I will add that in. I try really hard to make sure anything that I put in quotes is exactly the title. I always say knowledge with a capital N because that's the way it's listed in the instructions in the app. So I can slowly go through and tell it to add small things, little bits, without having to type everything. Remember, one of the main goals for all this is to be more efficient, to be faster, quicker. I have no problem whatsoever using this extended intelligence to improve my projects. I assume because you're listening to this podcast that you are at least open to that idea. The more you do this, the more AI taste you develop, the more understanding you develop, the more of your own style you develop. So now I go through and I check for these things. And once again, I would go through slower, but I don't want to force you to watch me or listen to me check these things. So I decide this looks pretty good, at least for now. So now I copy these instructions, starting with the number 1 there. I'll delete that out. And then I go back to my custom gem and I paste them in, and then I try it. So I want to make sure that I get rid of all this stuff at the top, and then I click save. Now, at this point in the knowledge files here, I would click on the plus. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to add the document that I have for the Seal Stories universe. So there's that document. I find it in my drive. If it was on ChatGPT, I would just have it on the desktop. But now I can put this document into the knowledge files. And whenever I wanted to remember anything about what Steph Austin, the main character from the Seal Stories series, did or said or felt or wondered, or how he grew, or any of his personality quirks or anything like that, it will pull it up for me. Now, a lot of these things I remember, but not all of them. And so this just makes it a lot easier instead of me having to go back into my folders and find that document that I created about why he was so resistant to doctors in all the stories. I can just ask my custom gem for that information. So then I would click update. And now I have my Door County Mystery Series assistant. I can start a new chat with it, and I can ask it anything. So for example, I can ask it to suggest the best location for my first Door County mystery. Now, I already have some things in mind. I don't want to share a bunch of it right now. I'm going to show you more about this later, and I think that you'll see how incredibly helpful it can be. The point is that these custom gems are extremely helpful for writers, for creators, for all kinds of people, especially if, like me, your memory is deteriorating a little bit. Nothing to worry about, but it's just faster and easier. And then I can get lots of suggestions. So that's the main purpose of all this. I hope this is helpful. Please let me know if there's anything specific you want. On the next episode, I will certainly be talking about my students' AI creations, their custom GPTs that are basically the creation of a character personality. And we will be making those and discussing those things in ChatGPT so you can see how to make a custom GPT in addition to a custom gem. So now on the screen, if you're watching, you can see, my custom GPTs. It's a slightly different process. There's not a lot more, but there's more flexibility with ChatGPT than with Google Gemini, but Google Gemini is synchronized better and also safer in certain ways. But we'll talk about this next week. And so thanks for joining me, and I can't wait to share some more information with you. Thanks for spending time with me today on AI for Everyone. I hope this episode gave you something useful to think about and something new to try. If you enjoyed it, please tell your peers and subscribe so you never miss an episode. You're also invited to join the Hanson Education Services newsletter, where I share bonus tools, practical teaching ideas, and curated updates to help you stay ahead in a world shaped by AI. To learn more, find all the resources mentioned today, and connect with me directly, visit hansoneducationservices.com. That's where you'll find everything you need to keep growing your AI confidence. Thanks again, and remember, the most important 21st century skill is to always keep learning how to learn.